conference room felt smaller than usual. Sterling slid the termination paperwork across the mahogany table with the kind of smugness that only comes from someone who's never actually closed a deal themselves. "We must leverage influencer culture, Erica. You're done. $18.5 million. That's what I brought in this year alone. Half of the company's entire revenue. And here I was, being handed my walking papers because my methods were apparently old school." I did something Sterling didn't expect. I laughed, actually laughed. Then I thanked him, gathered my things, and walked out of that building for the last time. What Sterling didn't know was that the next morning would be absolute chaos. This story became something of a legend in our industry. And it's exactly the kind of real workplace situation we talk about here at the Payback Office channel. If stories about workplace justice and what happens when companies make terrible decisions interest you, joining our community might be worth your time. We're building something special here, working our way to 6,000 subscribers who appreciate these real-world lessons. The subscribe button is there if you'd like to be part of that. My name is Erica Thornwell, and until that Friday afternoon, I was the Senior Director of Enterprise Sales at Prism Technologies, a mid-sized tech company specializing in cloud infrastructure services for Fortune 500 clients. I didn't come from money or connections. My parents ran a small hardware store in Ohio, the kind where you knew every customer by name and their kids' birthdays. They taught me that relationships matter, that people do business with people they trust, and that there's no substitute for actually understanding what someone needs. Those lessons from a small-town store somehow translated perfectly into selling million-dollar tech solutions. While others in my field were chasing trends and buzzwords, I was building genuine relationships with decision-makers, understanding their pain points, and delivering solutions that actually worked. It made me good at my job, really good. But according to Sterling Hashford, our newly appointed Chief Revenue Officer, it made me obsolete. Let me take you back 6 months before that termination meeting. Sterling arrived at Prism Technologies in March with a resume that looked impressive if you didn't look too closely. He'd been a digital transformation consultant at 3 different companies, never staying longer than 18 months at any of them. His LinkedIn was full of buzzwords: synergy, disruption, paradigm shifts, and his personal favorite, influencer culture. Our CEO, Ronald Pemberton, was approaching retirement and had started listening to board members who worried we weren't modern enough. They wanted someone young and dynamic. Sterling was 42, but dressed like he was 25, and talked like he'd memorized every TED Talk ever recorded. His first all-hands meeting should have been a warning sign. "The sales landscape has fundamentally evolved," Sterling announced, pacing the stage like he was delivering a keynote. "We're leaving behind the era of relationship selling and entering the age of influence. Our buyers don't want phone calls and coffee meetings. They want thought leadership. They want content. They want to see us on LinkedIn, on podcasts, at virtual summits." I was sitting with my team, all of us looking at each other with the same confused expression. Our buyers were CIOs and CTOs at major corporations. They absolutely wanted phone calls and meetings. That's how we built a $37 million business. But Sterling wasn't finished. "I'm implementing a new sales methodology. Every account executive will be required to post on LinkedIn at least 5 times per week. We're partnering with a podcast network. We're launching a YouTube channel. We're going to make Prism Technologies a media company that happens to sell tech solutions." My colleague, Ryan Castellano, whispered, "We're a media company now?" "Apparently," I whispered back. Sterling's changes started immediately. Instead of our Monday morning pipeline reviews, where we discussed actual deals and strategized on how to move them forward, we now had content planning sessions. "Erica, I noticed you haven't posted on LinkedIn this week," Sterling said during our first one-on-one meeting. "I've been focused on the Anderson tech deal," I replied. "We're negotiating a $3.2 million contract. They need the proposal revised, and that's exactly the kind of old-school thinking we need to move past," he interrupted, leaning back in his chair with his fingers steepled. "If you had been building your personal brand, Anderson Tech would have already been sold on our value proposition through your thought leadership." "Sterling, I've been working with Anderson Tech for 8 months. I know their CTO, their infrastructure team, their budget cycles. We're in final negotiations because of relationship building, not LinkedIn posts." His smile was condescending. "Erica, I understand this is difficult. You've been successful with your methods, but the industry is evolving, and you need to evolve with it. I'm bringing in a social media coordinator to help the team develop their online presence." The social media coordinator turned out to be Sterling's former college roommate, Tyler Brennan, whose previous experience was running Instagram accounts for local restaurants. He was now going to teach enterprise software sales professionals how to leverage digital platforms. Tyler's first presentation to the sales team was something to behold. What you want to do, he said, clicking through a slide deck full of emoji and GIFs, is post motivational quotes in the morning to drive engagement. Then around lunch, share an article about industry trends with your hot take. Late afternoon, that's when you go personal. Show people you're human. A photo of your coffee, your workspace, maybe your pet. And this will help us close deals with enterprise clients? Asked Monica Reeves, one of our top account executives who'd been with the company for 6 years. It builds your brand, Tyler said, as if that explained everything. When your brand is strong, deals close themselves. Monica looked at me. I just shook my head slightly. There was no point arguing yet. Over the next 3 months, Sterling systematically dismantled everything that had made our sales organization successful. He eliminated our annual client summit, a 3-day event where we brought our top customers together for networking, training, and relationship building. Too expensive and too old-fashioned, he declared. We're doing a virtual webinar series instead. Our clients hated it. The summit wasn't just about Prism Technologies. It was about bringing together IT leaders from non-competing industries to share knowledge. I'd closed some of my biggest deals during casual conversations at summit dinners. He cut our travel budget by 70%. Everything can be done over Zoom now, Sterling insisted. Meanwhile, our competitors were getting face-to-face time with decision makers while we were stuck on video calls. He hired 4 influencer sales associates, people with large LinkedIn followings but zero enterprise sales experience. They were supposed to show us how it's done. Their first month, they collectively closed 0 deals. But they did produce a lot of content. Most of it was generic motivational posts and reposted articles that had nothing to do with our actual solutions. Meanwhile, my team, the old school group, was keeping the company afloat. In June, I closed the Anderson Tech deal, $3.2 million, 3-year contract. In July, Monica brought in a $2.8 million expansion deal with an existing client, Hartwell Financial. In August, Ryan closed a $4.1 million new logo with a manufacturing company that had been on our target list for 2 years. We were doing what we'd always done, building relationships, understanding client needs, providing solutions, and closing deals. But Sterling wasn't happy about it. Your numbers are good, Sterling admitted during my Q3 review. But your methodology isn't scalable. Scalable? I repeated. Sterling, I've trained 12 people on this team. They're all successful. That's literally the definition of scalable. Your approach requires too much time per deal, too much relationship building, too much hand-holding. We need a model where our brand does the heavy lifting and salespeople just facilitate transactions. We sell complex infrastructure solutions to large enterprises. These aren't transactions. They're partnerships that take months to develop and years to nurture. He pulled up something on his computer and turned the screen toward me. It was a LinkedIn profile. This is Heather Sinclair. She's a sales influencer with 180,000 followers. She's written about the future of BeatWo billion sales, and she's consulted with several major tech companies. I'm bringing her in as a VP of Sales Enablement. We already have a VP of Sales Enablement. That's Jackson Morris. He's been here for 8 years and built our entire training program. Jackson represents the old model. Heather represents the future. Jackson will be transitioning to a different role. By different role, Sterling meant Jackson was being pushed out. He resigned 2 weeks later, and Heather took his place with a salary that was rumored to be 40% higher. Heather's first initiative was mandatory personal branding boot camps every Friday afternoon. Instead of working on deals, we sat through presentations about color psychology in LinkedIn banners and optimal posting times for maximum engagement. Your profile picture needs to convey approachable expertise, Heather told us, analyzing each team member's LinkedIn presence. And Erica, your bio is way too focused on results and client outcomes. You need to tell your story. Make it personal, make people feel something. My clients care about results, I said. They don't care about my personal story. That's where you're wrong, Heather replied with absolute confidence. Modern buyers want authentic connection. They want to know who you are as a person. Modern buyers want solutions to their problems and vendors who can deliver on promises. The tension in the room was thick. Heather smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. This resistance to change is exactly what's holding back the organization, she said. By the time we reached October, the numbers were stark. The 4 influencer sales associates Sterling had hired had collectively closed $900,000 in deals over 6 months. That averaged out to $150,000 per person. Each of them was being paid $120,000 in base salary, plus the company had spent another $80,000 on their content creation tools and training. Meanwhile, my team of 6 traditional account executives, which included Monica, Ryan, and 4 others, had closed $15.7 million in that same period. I personally had brought in $11.3 million. Together, my team represented 84% of the company's revenue for those 6 months. But when Sterling presented to the board, he told a different story. I only know this because Allison Webb, our CFO, pulled me aside after the meeting. Allison and I had worked together for 5 years, and she was one of the few executives who understood what was actually happening. He told them that the revenue was coming despite your methods, not because of them, Allison said quietly. He showed them engagement metrics, follower growth, content impressions. He said these were leading indicators that would transform into revenue in the next quarter. Leading indicators? Allison, we need actual revenue. The company can't pay bills with LinkedIn impressions. I know that, you know that. But Sterling is very persuasive, and the board is convinced that the company needs to modernize or get left behind. Ronald is checked out mentally, already thinking about retirement. The board members don't understand enterprise sales. They see Sterling's presentations with all the graphs going up and to the right, and they think he's a genius. What about when the revenue doesn't come next quarter? Allison looked uncomfortable. He's planning for that. He's already building a narrative that the old guard is sabotaging the new methods, that if he had a team fully committed to the new approach, the results would be transformative. The old guard, she meant me. Sterling started documenting everything. Every time I prioritized a client meeting over a content creation session, it went into a file. Every time I questioned one of his initiatives in a meeting, it was noted as resistance to leadership direction. When I refused to require my team to spend 3 hours a week in Tyler's social media optimization workshops, it became failure to support organizational priorities. He was building a case. Meanwhile, the influencer sales associates were struggling, not for lack of trying, really. They just had no idea how to actually sell enterprise solutions. One of them, Kevin Ashford, had 85,000 LinkedIn followers from his previous career as a motivational speaker. He could create engaging content. He was charismatic on video. But when he got on a call with a potential client's IT director and couldn't answer basic technical questions about our infrastructure solutions, it didn't matter how many followers he had. I tried to help, I really did. Kevin, you need to spend more time with the product team, I suggested. Understand the technical architecture. Our buyers are sophisticated. They'll ask detailed questions. That's not my strength, Kevin said. I'm here to open doors with my influence. Then the technical people can handle the details. You are the salesperson. You need to handle both the relationship and understand enough to have credible conversations. Erica, I respect your experience, but that's an outdated model. In the new approach, we operate more like a media company with a distributed team. I create awareness and interest through content. Solutions engineers handle technical details. We're more efficient this way. Except they weren't closing deals. By November, the reality was becoming impossible to ignore. The company was going to miss its annual target by almost $8 million. The only reason it wasn't worse was because of the revenue my team had generated. Sterling needed a scapegoat. The breaking point came over the Donovan Industries deal. Donovan Industries was a massive potential client, a manufacturing conglomerate with operations across North America. They were looking to overhaul their entire cloud infrastructure. The deal was worth potentially $12 million over 4 years. I'd been cultivating this relationship for over a year. I knew their VP of IT, Helen Kowalski, from an industry conference. We'd stayed in touch. When they started evaluating vendors, Helen made sure we were on the shortlist. Sterling wanted to handle the deal himself. This is too important, he announced in a leadership meeting. This needs to be a showcase of our new methodology. I'm going to lead this one personally, with Kevin supporting on the content and social side. Sterling, I've built the relationship with Donovan, I protested. Helen specifically asked to work with me. We've already had 3 preliminary meetings. And I appreciate you warming them up. But to close a deal this size, we need to demonstrate thought leadership and executive presence. I'll take it from here. Allison tried to intervene. Sterling, our close rate is highest when we let the person with the existing relationship continue to manage the account. That's because we haven't properly implemented the new methodology yet. This is our opportunity to prove what's possible. I watched Sterling take over my deal. It was painful. His first meeting with Helen and her team was a disaster. Instead of asking about their needs and challenges, he spent 40 minutes talking about Prism Technologies' vision and showing them a video montage of our thought leadership content. Helen emailed me afterward. What happened? I thought we were going to discuss our technical requirements and timeline. I couldn't badmouth my superior, so I just said there might have been a miscommunication and offered to set up a follow-up meeting focused on their needs. Sterling denied the request. We need to maintain consistent messaging. I'll handle all Donovan communications. His second meeting was worse. He brought Kevin, who tried to bond with Donovan's technical team by talking about his LinkedIn growth strategy. They were not impressed. After the third meeting, Helen called me directly. Erica, I need to be frank with you. If Sterling is going to be our point of contact, we're going to go with another vendor. But if you're managing the relationship, we'd like to move forward with Prism. What's it going to be? I made a decision that, in retrospect, sealed my fate. I went over Sterling's head to Ronald. Ronald Pemberton had built Prism Technologies from nothing 20 years ago. He'd been a good CEO, but lately, he was tired. He wanted to retire to his place in Montana and not think about revenue targets and board meetings. Erica, I understand your concerns, he said when I laid out everything that had been happening. But Sterling was brought in to modernize our approach. The board is very supportive of his vision. Ronald, with respect, his vision isn't producing revenue. My team is holding this company together. We're going to miss our annual target because Sterling's methods don't work for enterprise sales. He says we need more time for the new approach to gain traction, that the investment we're making now will pay off exponentially. And if it doesn't, how long do we wait while revenue declines? Ronald sighed. He suddenly looked very old. What do you want me to do, Erica? Let me manage the Donovan deal. They specifically want to work with me. It's a $12 million opportunity. We can't afford to lose it. He agreed, reluctantly, and overruled Sterling. I closed the Donovan deal 3 weeks later. $11.8 million over 4 years, with an expansion clause that could add another $4 million. Sterling never forgave me. When December rolled around, the annual numbers told an undeniable story. Total company revenue, $37 million. Revenue from my team, $18.5 million. Revenue I personally closed, $14.2 million. Revenue from Sterling's influencer sales team, $1.4 million. But Sterling had been preparing his narrative carefully. The Friday before Christmas, he called me into the conference room. HR was there. Donna Fitzgerald from legal was there. Erica, we need to discuss your future at Prism Technologies, Sterling began. He had a presentation prepared. It detailed every instance where I'd resisted new initiatives, undermined leadership, and failed to embrace organizational change. Your methods are old school, he said, and there was something triumphant in his voice. Yes, you've brought in revenue, but you've done it using an approach that isn't sustainable, isn't scalable, and isn't aligned with where this company needs to go. I've brought in half the company's revenue this year, using relationships and methods that can't be replicated. We need a systematic, modern approach. We must leverage influencer culture, build our brand, and create a sales organization for the future. You're stuck in the past, Erica. You're done. He slid the termination papers across the table. Severance was generous, I'd give them that. 6-month salary, continued health insurance, standard non-compete and non-disparagement clauses. I looked at the papers. I looked at Sterling's smug face. I looked at Donna from legal, who wouldn't meet my eyes, and the HR representative who looked uncomfortable. And I laughed. It started as a small chuckle, but it grew. I laughed until tears came to my eyes. Something funny? Sterling asked, his smugness cracking into irritation. You have no idea what you've just done, I said, still laughing, but you'll find out soon enough. I signed the papers. I stood up. I thanked Sterling for the opportunity, shook everyone's hands, and walked out. I cleaned out my desk, said goodbye to my team, and left the building for the last time. My phone started buzzing before I even got to my car. Monday morning, I was at home, enjoying my first cup of coffee as an unemployed person, when my phone rang. It was Monica. You're not going to believe what's happening here, she said, and I could hear the chaos in the background. Tell me. Ryan quit this morning, just walked in, put his resignation letter on Sterling's desk and walked out, said if this is how the company treats its top performers, he's done. Just Ryan? No. Allison is on the phone with clients. Apparently, Anderson Tech called this morning asking to speak with you about their contract renewal. When they found out you'd been fired, they requested an immediate meeting with Ronald. Hartwell Financial is furious. Helen from Donovan just sent an email saying she wants to know who's going to be managing their implementation, and if it's not you, they want to discuss alternatives. I sipped my coffee. Anything else? Kevin just closed a deal, wants everyone to know about it. $45,000. He's acting like he just landed a Fortune 500 account. I almost spit out my coffee. $45,000? That's smaller than our average deal by a factor of 10. Sterling congratulated him in the all-hands Slack channel, called it proof that the new methodology works. Monica, can I ask you something? Sure. What are you going to do? There was a long pause. I'm updating my resume, she said quietly. I'll probably start looking in January. I can't work for someone who fires the person responsible for half our revenue because she won't post enough on LinkedIn. We talked for a few more minutes, then hung up. My phone rang again almost immediately. This time it was Helen from Donovan. Erica, I just heard the news, Helen said. Please tell me it's not true. If you heard I'm no longer with Prism, that's accurate. That's insane. You're the only reason we signed with them. Who's going to manage our implementation? I assume Sterling will assign someone from the team. We don't want someone from the team. We want you. You understand our infrastructure, our timeline, our requirements. We've already had to explain everything twice to Sterling, and he still doesn't get it. Helen, I appreciate the confidence, but I can't help anymore. I'm no longer with the company. Another pause. What if you were with a different company? That stopped me. What do you mean? I mean, we haven't actually paid the first invoice yet. We're technically still in the contract execution phase. If you were to land somewhere else, somewhere that could provide equivalent or better solutions, we'd be interested in having a conversation. Helen, I have a non-compete clause. For how long? 6 months. So in 6 months, if you're somewhere else, give me a call. In the meantime, I'm going to slow walk this implementation. I have a feeling Sterling won't be around much longer anyway. We said goodbye, and I sat there staring at my phone. It rang again. Anderson Tech, then Hartwell Financial, then 2 other clients I'd worked with over the years. They all said essentially the same thing. They'd done business with Prism because of me, and if I wasn't there, they were reconsidering their options. By Tuesday, the situation at Prism had apparently gone from chaotic to critical. Ryan wasn't the only one who quit. 2 of the other account executives from my team put in their notice. They'd already been talking to competitors, and my termination was the final push they needed. Monica called again. Sterling just held an emergency all-hands meeting. Said that the company is going through a necessary transition and that anyone who isn't committed to the new vision should leave now. Basically told people to quit if they're not happy. How did that go over? About as well as you'd expect. 3 more people from sales operations quit on the spot. Janet from customer success resigned. Oh, and the best part? Allison confronted Sterling about the client situation, told him that we're at risk of losing $9 million in contracts because of your termination. Sterling told her she was being dramatic. $9 million? That's conservative. That's what I said. It's probably closer to $15 million when you factor in renewals and expansions. By Wednesday, Ronald finally woke up to what was happening. Allison told me later that he called an emergency board meeting after Anderson Tech formally notified Prism that they were exploring other vendors for their upcoming renewal, which was worth $4.3 million. The board asked Sterling to explain the situation. According to Allison, who heard it secondhand from another executive, Sterling's explanation was that this was expected resistance to change, and that legacy clients who were too dependent on individual relationships rather than the brand were going to churn anyway. Let them go, Sterling allegedly said. We'll replace them with clients who value our thought leadership and modern approach. One board member asked the obvious question. How long will that take, and what's the revenue impact in the meantime? Sterling apparently didn't have a good answer. By Thursday, 2 more major clients had reached out to express concerns. One of them, Pembroke Systems, outright canceled their upcoming expansion project worth $2.1 million. Friday, exactly 1 week after my termination, Monica called with the biggest news yet. Ronald just fired Sterling. I actually had to ask her to repeat it. Ronald fired him, this morning, called him in, told him his approach had failed, and that the company couldn't afford the client exodus. Sterling is done. What about Heather and Tyler and the influencer sales team? All gone, clean sweep. Ronald's trying to stop the bleeding. Is it working? He wants to talk to you. Ronald and I met at a coffee shop the following Tuesday. He looked worse than I'd ever seen him. The retirement glow he'd been cultivating was gone, replaced by stress and exhaustion. Erica, I made a mistake, he started. The board made a mistake. We got sold on a vision that sounded good in presentations, but didn't match reality. I tried to tell you, Ronald. I know, and I didn't listen. What's the damage? He pulled out a folder and slid it across to me. 6 major clients have either canceled contracts or put renewals on hold. Total revenue impact, $11.7 million. We've lost 8 employees, including most of your sales team. Cone pipeline is down 67% because no one was prospecting while Sterling had everyone making LinkedIn posts. I looked through the numbers. It was bad. What do you want from me, Ronald? Come back, VP of Sales, full control of the sales organization, whatever compensation you want. Help me fix this. No, he looked stunned. Erica, please. The company needs you. The company fired me for doing my job well. I spent 6 months watching Sterling dismantle everything we'd built while you and the board supported him. Why would I come back to that? We negotiated for another hour. In the end, we agreed on a 4-month consulting contract. I would personally reach out to the 6 at-risk client relationships, help recruit and train a new sales team, document the processes that had made my team successful, and transition everything to a new VP of sales that Ronald would hire. I would not return as a full-time employee or commit to anything beyond 4 months. We shook hands, and I started the following Monday. The first thing I did was reach out to the major clients. I had honest conversations with each of them. Anderson Tech, Hartwell Financial, Donovan Industries. I told them what was happening. Sterling and his approach were gone, Ronald was rebuilding the sales organization the right way, and I was there temporarily to stabilize key relationships. Not all of them agreed to stay, but 4 out of 6 did, which saved about $7.2 million in revenue. I helped Ronald interview for new sales positions. We rejected anyone whose LinkedIn profile was more impressive than their actual sales results. We prioritized people who asked about the product, the clients, and the problems we solved. We hired 5 new account executives over the next 6 weeks. All of them had real enterprise sales experience. None of them were influencers. I spent my final 2 months training them the way I should have been allowed to train Sterling's team, focused on client needs, relationship building, consultative selling, and actually understanding our solutions. My 4-month consulting contract came to an end. Ronald made one final attempt to convince me to stay permanently. Erica, you've completely stabilized the company. The new team is performing well. Clients trust us again. Come back as VP of sales. Ronald, I appreciate it. But my answer hasn't changed. What are you going to do? I'd been working on this quietly for the past month. I'm starting my own consultancy, enterprise sales training and advisory services for tech companies. I've already got 3 clients lined up from former contacts who have moved to other companies. Turns out, a lot of tech companies are struggling with the same problem Prism had. He nodded slowly. I understand. And honestly, I can't blame you. My last day at Prism was nothing like my last day 3 months earlier. The team I'd helped hire threw me a going-away lunch. Monica gave a speech about how I'd saved the company. Ronald gave me a parting gift, but I was ready to leave. This time on my terms. My consultancy grew quickly. Within 6 months, I had 7 clients, all tech companies struggling with sales effectiveness. My approach was simple. Focus on fundamentals, build real relationships, train people to actually sell rather than just create content. The results spoke for themselves. One client increased their close rate by 34% in 3 months. Another finally broke into the enterprise market after years of being stuck in small and mid-market deals. I hired my first employee, a former colleague named James Sutton, who'd been laid off when his previous company went through restructuring. He was talented, experienced, and shared my philosophy on sales. One afternoon, several months later, I got a call from an unknown number. Is this Erica Thornwell? Yes, who's calling? My name is Rachel Kim. I'm the CEO of Velocity Dynamics. I was wondering if you had time to talk. The name sounded vaguely familiar, then I remembered. Sterling's new company. What can I do for you, Rachel? I'll be direct. I recently learned about what happened at Prism Technologies with Sterling Hashford. I've been doing some digging, and your name keeps coming up as the person who was actually driving results before he fired you. Here's why I'm calling. Sterling has been here for 5 months. He's completely overhauled our sales organization. Our revenue is down 28%, and we've lost 4 key people. I'm trying to figure out if I need to correct course. I could have gloated, but that's not who I was. Rachel, I can't tell you what to do with your company, but I can tell you that in my experience, sales fundamentals haven't changed as much as people like Sterling claim. Relationships matter. Understanding client needs matters. Having salespeople who actually know how to sell matters. If you want to talk about what effective enterprise sales looks like, I'm happy to have that conversation. Are you taking new clients? I am. I ended up consulting with Velocity Dynamics for 3 months. Rachel was a good CEO who'd made a bad hire. The reality was that Velocity had a good product and a solid market position, but Sterling had dismantled the sales practices that had gotten them there. I helped Rachel rebuild. Within 2 months, Velocity's revenue started recovering. Sterling was let go after my first month there. The results, or lack thereof, spoke for themselves. My consultancy continued to grow. I hired 2 more consultants. We developed a reputation for fixing broken sales organizations and building sustainable growth. I stayed in touch with Monica and the team at Prism. The company stabilized and eventually got acquired by a larger competitor at a decent valuation. Ronald got his retirement. That Friday afternoon, when Sterling slid those termination papers across the table, I thought I was losing everything. Instead, I gained the freedom to build something better on my own terms. I built a career on relationships, on understanding client needs, on delivering results. Someone told me that was obsolete. Some things don't become obsolete. They just get temporarily out of fashion before everyone remembers why they mattered in the first place. If this resonated with you, or if you've experienced something similar in your own workplace, consider subscribing to the Payback Office channel. We share these real workplace stories because the lessons in them matter. We'd be glad to have you as part of our community as we continue growing towards 6,000 subscribers. Thanks for your time.